Good morning. As representative of California's 28th District and chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, or what we call KPAC, I'm so thrilled to join the Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation and all of you for your Resilience in Action Summit. This summit is an incredible opportunity for all of us to come together and grow our shared sense of strength and bravery within our community. It was late on January 21st this year when my hometown of Monterey Park faced an unimaginable tragedy when a gunman walked into the Stardance studio in Monterey Park right on the eve of Lunar New Year, shooting 11 people dead, wounding 9 others, and leaving behind an entirely traumatized community. The first thing I have to do is to thank all of you of Tzu Chi USA for the enormous impact you had in responding to this terrible shooting right away. As many of us were just hearing and processing the news the morning after, Tzu Chi volunteers immediately jumped into action to support our community. Starting as early as dawn of that day, Tzu Chi volunteers began communications with the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Los Angeles, exchanging information as the situation continued to unfold. At the request of the LA Police Department, a group of volunteers were deployed to the Family Information Center to provide critical on-site services such as real-time translation and providing updates to families of the victims in both Mandarin and Cantonese. And then, just a few days later, Tzu Chi USA helped the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office to translate personal information, understand families' needs, and link them to government resources. So from the bottom of my heart, I say to all of you, thank you. I have been deeply involved in helping the victims' families and the survivors. So I know firsthand that your help and the help of so many was so greatly needed, because our entire community was traumatized. And in fact, this was the worst mass shooting in the history of Los Angeles County. That's why I was also so grateful for the resources that came from Washington, D.C., who responded to my calls for help. Vice President Kamala Harris, Secretary of Health and Human Services Javier Becerra, and Administrator of the Small Business Administration Isabel Guzman all came to meet with our community. As a result, one of the things that came about was an announcement that we made yesterday that as a result of the disaster declaration due to the shooting, every small business in Los Angeles County is eligible to receive a very low interest loan to help their businesses recover over the next year. But the most impactful visit was when President Biden came to Monterey Park. I was with the president when he consoled each of the victims' families, and I know that the incredible empathy he showed to each of them helped them enormously in their healing. He also chose that time to announce historic executive actions to reduce gun violence and save lives, such as creating a FEMA-like response to mass shootings that would better coordinate local, state, and federal resources, as is done now for natural disasters. And let me also say that it was clear that this Monterey Park shooter was deteriorating mentally. He'd gone to the police department 2 weeks earlier saying that his family was trying to poison him, but he was also accumulating ammunition. Now, red flag laws would have allowed someone to notify authorities for his guns to be taken away from him. Yet few in our immigrant communities know about such laws. Because of this, I am introducing a bill to require outreach to immigrant communities on red flag laws and other gun prevention measures. My hope is that this common sense measure passes soon and is sent to the president's desk for signature. Now, this trauma has been so difficult, but what is even more horrendous is that it came on the heels of 3 years of anti-Asian hate. This hate was exacerbated when Trump called COVID-19 the China virus and Kung flu, resulting in 11,500 anti-Asian hate crimes and incidents. The hate crimes that resulted ranged from insults to assaults to killings. And I will never forget when just a few miles down from here in Rosemead, teacher's aide was sitting at the bus stop with his cane when he was attacked by a man who hit him senselessly with his own cane so that this Rosemead man lost part of his finger. Today, the AAPI community is facing even more challenges. The rise of xenophobic language and hawkish rhetoric about the US-China relationship. This is putting targets on our community members' backs, using us as scapegoats for economic and national security concerns. Chinese scientists and engineers have been the victims of racial profiling, arrested for being spies for China, but with such flimsy evidence that the charges were dropped, but not before their lives were ruined. Even I have been accused by an extremist Republican Congress member from Texas as being a spy for China, just because of my ethnicity and the stereotype that AAPIs are the perpetual foreigners, no matter how long we've been in this country. And there is an alarming increase of alien land laws, the most recent being the signing of such a law in Florida by Ron DeSantis that will prohibit any Chinese national from owning land, even if they have a legitimate green card. These are state laws that we haven't seen here in this country for 100 years. They were done in the late 1800s and early 1900s during very racist times against Asians. But now they are proliferating not only in Florida, but in Texas, Louisiana, and other states. Can you imagine this? A real estate agent would have to check your immigration papers before you could buy a condo or a house? That's not right. So at this moment, it has been more important than ever to have voices in the halls of Congress. And that is why, over the last 2 years, my fellow Congressional Asian Caucus members and I have fought back. To fight anti-Asian hate, we had press conferences, hearings, and finally successfully passed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, the first major hate crimes act to pass in 30 years. To fight back against the alien land laws, last month I introduced a bill with Congressmember Al Green of Texas to stop any such discriminatory land laws passed at the state level. And because there is far too much ignorance in this country about the history and contributions of AAPIs, we got a bill passed creating a commission to study the creation of a National Smithsonian Museum of AAPI history and culture. And we are addressing the devastating toll this is taking on our community's mental health and well-being. Even before the pandemic, AAPIs had less access to mental health because of barriers like language, culture, and geography. But today, with attacks on our communities leading to increased stigmatization and racial trauma, mental health help is more important than ever. Yet, AAPIs are still less likely than other racial groups to seek mental health services. What's most alarming is that out of all the racial groups in this country, the leading cause of death for our AAPI youth is suicide. I am the only psychologist serving in Congress, so I know how critical it is to remove the barriers for seeking help, especially for our underserved community where many members feel lonely and isolated. First, we must raise awareness about this problem. That's why I introduced a resolution designating May 10th as National Asian American Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Mental Health Day. Thankfully, the word is spreading because this year, at the state and local level, community mental health advocates and organizations from over 35 states and cities have submitted similar proclamations for the recognition of AAPI Mental Health Day. I also introduced a bill, the Stop Mental Health Stigma in Our Communities Act. This bill would combat the attitude in our community by instructing the federal agency, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, to partner with local advocacy and behavioral health organizations to provide outreach and education strategies specifically for AAPIs. That way, our federal government can actually meet our families, elders, and children where they are with linguistically and culturally appropriate mental health care. But what will make the greatest difference of all is you. You can help fight anti-Asian hate by learning the 5 Ds of bystander intervention: distract, delegate, document, delay, and direct. You can help our community get the mental health services they need by being willing to listen, getting yourself help if you need it, and encouraging your friends to get the help when they need it. All of what we have been able to do so far remind us that we have come far in being able to raise our voices. I think back to the time when our communities were invisible on Capitol Hill, so that when the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 and the Japanese American incarceration happened, there was nobody to speak up for us. Today, it is different. Today, we have a historic high of AAPI leaders elected at all levels. We have a seat at the table where the decisions are being made. Today, we have organizations like yours, the Chu Chi Foundation, which is organizing people to respond. And because we have a seat at the table, because we have organizations like yours, we can have each other's backs. We can intervene against threats, and we can move our communities forward. So let me be clear. Our movement forward cannot be possible without you, community advocates, fighting tirelessly on the ground. You are all so critical to strengthening our nation and our community in hopeful and beautiful ways. So thank you again to Tzu Chi USA and your entire team, volunteers, and sponsors who are represented here today. I look forward to continuing our partnership together.